Your German grammar lesson is on the table. Pray open it at page 15 and we will begin yesterday's lesson.
But I don't like German. It isn't at all a becoming language. I know perfectly well that I look quite plain after my German lesson.
Cecily, you know how anxious your guardian is that you should improve yourself in every way. He laid particular stress on your German when he was leaving for town. In fact, he always lays particular stress on your German when he's leaving for town.
Dear Uncle Jack is so very serious. Sometimes he's so serious that I think he cannot be quite well.
Your guardian enjoys the very best of health. His gravity of demeanor is especially to be commended for someone as comparatively young as he is. I know no one with a higher sense of duty and responsibility.
I suppose that's why he often looks a little bored when we three are together.
Well, Cecily, there's not much I can say. You must remember what a constant anxiety that poor unfortunate young man, his brother, is.
I wish Uncle Jack would allow that unfortunate young man, his brother, to come down here sometimes. We might have a good influence over him, Miss Prison. I know you surely could.
I do not think that even I could produce an effect on such a character who, according to his own brother's admission, is irretrievably weak and vacillating. Indeed, I don't think I would desire to reclaim him. I'm not in favor of this modern mania for turning bad people into good people at a moment's notice.
All about them.
Cecily, memory, my dear, is the diary that we all carry about with us.
Yes, it usually records things that have never happened and couldn't possibly have happened. I believe that memory is responsible for nearly all the 3-volume novels that the bookshop sends us.
Do not speak slightingly of the 3-volume novel. I wrote one myself in my earlier days.
Did you really, Miss Prison? How wonderfully clever you are. I hope it did not end happily. I don't like novels that end happily. They depress me so much.
Well, the good ended happily and the bad unhappily. That's what fiction means.
I suppose so. That seems very unfair. And was the novel ever published?
Alas, no. The manuscript was abandoned. Oh, it's okay. By that I mean lost or mislaid. But to your work, child, these speculations are profitless.
But I see dear Dr. Shosball coming up through the garden.
Dr. Chasuble, this is indeed a pleasure.
And how are we this morning, Miss Prism? You are, I trust, well?
Miss Prism has just been complaining of slight headache. I think it will do us so much good to have a short stroll with you in the park with Dr. Shosball.
Cecily, I have said nothing about a headache.
No, dear Miss Prism, I know that. But I felt instinctively that you had headache. Indeed, I was thinking about that along my German lesson when the rector came in.
I hope, Cecily, you are not inattentive.
I'm afraid.
God, that is strange. If I was fortunate enough to be Miss Prism's pupil, I would hang upon her lips. I spoke metaphorically, of course. My metaphor was drawn from bees. Mr. Worthing, I suppose, has not returned from town yet?
No, we do not expect him till Monday afternoon.
Ah, yes. He usually likes to spend his Sundays in London. He is not one of those whose sole aim is enjoyment, as by all accounts that unfortunate young man, his brother, seems to be. But I must not disturb Egeria and her people any longer.
Egeria? Doctor, my name is Letitia.
A classical allusion merely, drawn from the pagan authors. I shall see you both, no doubt, at evensong.
I think I will have a stroll with you after all. It seems I have a headache and a walk might do it good.
With pleasure, Miss Prism, with pleasure. Should we go to the schools and back?
That would be delightful. Cecily, you will read your political economy in my absence. You may omit the chapter on the fall of the rupee. It's a bit too sensational. Even these metallic problems have their melodramatic side.
Horrid political economy, horrid geography, horrid German.
Mr. Ernest Worthing has just driven over from the station. He has brought his luggage with him.
Mr. Ernest Worthing, before LBW, Uncle Jack's brother, did you tell him Mr. Worthing was in town?
Yes, miss. He seemed very much disappointed. I mentioned that you and Miss Prism were in the garden. He said he was anxious to speak to you privately for the moment.
Ask Mr. Hannesworthy to come here. I suppose you better talk to the housekeeper about a room for him.
Yes, miss.
I've never met a really wicked person before. I'm so frightened. I feel rather frightened. It will look just like everyone else. He does.
You are my little cousin Cecily, I'm sure.
You are under some strange mistake. I'm not little, in fact. I believe I'm more than usually tall for my age. But I'm your cousin Cecily. You, I see from your card, are Uncle Jack's brother, my cousin Ernest, my wicked cousin Ernest.
I'm not wicked, cousin Cecily. You mustn't think that I'm wicked.
Then, if you are not, you have been deceiving us all in a very excusable manner. I hope you have not been leading a double life, pretending to be wicked and being really good all the time. That would be hypocrisy.
Well, I have been rather reckless.
I'm glad to hear it.
In fact, I've been very bad in my own small way.
I don't think you should be so proud of that. Though I'm sure it must have been very pleasant.
It is much more pleasant being here with you.
I can't understand how you are here at all. Uncle Jack won't be back till Monday afternoon.
Oh, that is indeed a great disappointment, for I am obliged to travel up to London on the first train on Monday morning. I have an urgent business appointment that I am anxious to miss.
Couldn't you miss it anywhere but in London?
But the appointment is in London.
Well, I know of course how important it is not to keep a business engagement if one wants to retain any sense of beauty of life, but still I think you had better wait till Uncle Jack arrives. I know he wants to speak to you about your immigrating.
About my what?
You are immigrating. He's gone off to buy your outfit.
I certainly wouldn't let Jack buy my outfit. He's got no taste in neckties at all.
I don't think you will require neckties. Uncle Jack is sending you to Australia.
Australia? I'd sooner die.
Well, he said at dinner on Wednesday night that you'd have to choose between this world, the next world, and Australia.
Well, the accounts I've received of Australia, and indeed the next world, are not particularly promising. No, Cousin Cecily, this world is good enough for me.
Yes, are you good enough for it?
I'm afraid I am not, which is why I want you to reform me. You might make that your mission, as it were, Cousin Cecily.
I'm afraid I've no time this afternoon.
Well, would you mind my reforming myself this afternoon?
It is rather foolish of you, but I think you should try.
I will. I feel better already.
You're looking a little worse.
That is because I am hungry.
How thoughtless of me! I should have remembered that when one is going to lead an entirely new life, one requires regular and also meals. Won't you come in?
Certainly. Might I have a buttonhole first? I never have any appetite unless I have a buttonhole first.
A yellow rose?
I'd sooner have a pink rose, if I may.
Why?
Because you are like a pink rose, Cousin Cecily.
I don't think you should talk to me like that. Miss Prism never says such things to me.
Well, Miss Prism is a blind old woman. You are the prettiest girl I ever saw.
Miss Prism says all good looks are a snare.
And they're a snare that every sensible man should like to be caught in.
Much alone, Dr. Chasuble. You should get married. A single woman I can understand. A single man, never.
Believe me, I do not deserve such a comment. Her.
That depends on the intellectual sympathies of the woman. Maturity can be depended on. Ripeness can be trusted. Young women are green. I spoke horticulturally. But where's Cecily?
Perhaps you followed us to the schools.
Mr. Worthing!
Mr. Worthy?
This is indeed a surprise. We did not expect you till Monday afternoon.
I have returned sooner than expected. Dr. Chasuble, I hope you're well.
Dear Mr. Worthing, I hope this garb of woe does not betoken some terrible calamity.
My brother,
More shameful debts and extravagance?
Still leading a life of pleasure?
dead,
Your brother Ernest did?
quite dead.
What a lesson for him. I trust he will profit by it.
Mr. Worthing, I offer you my sincere condolence. I just want you to know that you have the consolation of knowing that you have always been the most forgiving and generous of brothers. Were you with him at the end?
No, he died abroad. In Paris, in fact. I had a telegram last night from the manager of the Grand Hotel.
Yeah, were you with him at the end?
Was the cause of death mentioned?
A severe chill, it seems.
Oh,
Yeah, I myself am very prone to drafts. You
as
know,
a man sows, so shall he reap. No one's perfect.
you know what? No one's perfect. I myself am very prone to drafts. Will the interment take place here?
No, he seems to have expressed a desire to be buried in Paris.
And Paris, I fear that hardly points to any very serious state of lass. Which you would no doubt wish me to make some slight allusion to this tragic domestic affliction next Sunday. My sermon on the meaning of manner in the wilderness can be adapted to any occasions, joyful or in the present case, distressing. I have preached it at harvest celebrations and christenings and confirmations and festal days and days of humiliation. The last time I delivered it, I was in the cathedral as a charity sermon on behalf of the Society of Prevention of Discontent among the Upboarders. The bishop that was present there was much struck with some of the analogies I drew.
That reminds me. I think you mentioned christening, Dr. Chasuble. I presume you know how to christen, all right? I mean, you are continually christening, aren't you?
It is, I regret to say, one of the rector's most constant duties in the parish. I have often spoken to the poorer classes on the subject. They do not seem to know what family planning is.
But is there any particular infant in whom you are interested, Mr. Worthing? Your brother was, I believe, unmarried, was he not?
Oh, yes.
People who live entirely for pleasure usually are.
But it is not for any child, dear doctor. I am very fond of children. No, the fact is, I would like to be christened myself this afternoon, if you have nothing better to do.
But surely, Mr. Worthing, you have been christened already.
I don't remember anything about it.
But have you any grave doubts on the subject?
I certainly intend to have. Of course, I don't know if the thing would bother you in any way, or if you think I'm a little too old now.
Not at all. Sprinkling and indeed the immersion of adults is a perfectly canonical practice.
Immersion?
Hey, you don't have to have any worries. Sprinkling is all that is necessary, but our weather is so changeable. Do you have an idea of when the ceremony should be performed?
Well, I might trot around about 5 o'clock, if that will suit you.
Yes, perfectly. In fact, I have 2 similar ceremonies to perform at that time, in case twins. It happened on one of your outlying cottages. Matter of fact, on your own estate, 4 Jenkins to Carter, most fortunate young, hardworking man.
Oh, I don't see much fun in being christened along with other babies. That would be childish. Would 5:30 do?
Admirably. Now, dear Mr. Worthing, I will not intrude any longer in a house of sorrow. I just merely beg you not to be too bowed down by grief. Just remember that what seems to be bitter trials are often blessings in disguise.
This seems to me a blessing of the most obvious kind.
Uncle Jack! Oh, I'm pleased to see you back. But what horrid clothes you forgot on? You go and change them.
Cecily!
My child.
What is the matter, Uncle Jack? You look happy. You look as if you had a toothache and I've got such a surprise for you. Who do you think is in the dining room? Your brother.
Who?
Your brother, Ernest. He arrived about half an hour ago.
What nonsense! I haven't got a brother.
Oh, don't say that. However badly he may have left you in the past, is still your brother. You shouldn't be so heartless as to disown him. I will call him to come out and you will shake hands with him. Won't you, Uncle Jack?
These are very joyful tidings.
After we had all been resigned to his loss, this sudden return seems to me peculiarly distressing.
My brother is in the dining room. I don't know what it all means. I think it's perfectly absurd. Good heavens!
Brother John, I've come up from town to tell you that I'm very sorry for all the things I've done, and I intend to lead a better life in the future.
Uncle Jack, you are not going to refuse your own brother's hand.
Nothing will induce me to shake his hand. I think he's coming down here disgraceful. He knows perfectly well why.
Uncle Jack, do be nice. There's some good in everyone. Ernest has just been telling me about his poor invalid friend Mr. Bunbury, whom he goes to visit so often. And surely there must be much good in one who is kind to an invalid and leaves the pleasures of London to sit by a bed of pain.
Oh, he's been talking about Bunbury, has he?
Yes, he has told me all about poor Mr. Bunbury and his terrible state of health.
Bunbury. Well, I won't have him talk to you about Bunbury or about anything else. It is enough to drive one perfectly frantic.
I admit the faults were all on my side, but I must say that I find Brother John's coldness towards me particularly painful. I expected a more enthusiastic welcome, especially considering this is the first time that I've been here.
Uncle Jack, if you don't take hands with Ernest, I'll never forgive you.
Never forgive me? Well, this is the last time I shall ever do it.
It's pleasant, is it not, to see such perfect a reconciliation? Perhaps we should leave these two brothers together?
Cecily, you will come with us.
Certainly, Miss Prisoner, my little task of reconciliation is over.
We must not be premature in our judgments.
You have done a beautiful act today, yourself.
I feel very happy.
Algie, you young scoundrel, you must leave this place as soon as possible. I don't allow any bumbering here.
I have put Mr. Ernest things in the room next to you, sir. I suppose that's all right?
What?
Mr. Ernest luggage, sir. I have unpacked it and put it in the room next to your own.
His luggage?
Yes, sir. 3 suitcases, 2 hand boxes, and a big luncheon box.
I'm afraid I can't stay more than a week this time.
Merriman, order the dog cart at once. Mr. Earnest has suddenly been called back to town.
Yes, sir.
What a fearful liar you are, Jack. I haven't been called back to town at all.
Yes, you have.
I didn't hear anyone call me.
Your duty as a gentleman calls you back.
My duty as a gentleman has never stood in the way of my pleasures in the slightest degree.
I can quite understand that.
Well, Cecily is a darling.
You are not to talk of Miss Cardew like that. I don't like it.
Well, I don't like your clothes. You look perfectly ridiculous in them. Why don't you go and change? It is absurd to be deep in mourning for a man who is actually staying in your house for an entire week. I'd call it grotesque.
You are certainly not staying in my house as a guest for a whole week as a guest or anything else. You have got to leave by the 4:05 train.
But I can't leave you while you are deep in mourning. It would be a wonderful success. I'm in love with Cecily, and that is everything. But I must see her before I leave and make arrangements for another Bunbury. Ah, there she is.
Oh, I nearly come back to water the roses. I thought you were with Uncle Jack.
He has gone to fetch the dog cart for me.
Oh, is he going to take you for a nice drive?
No, he's sending me away.
Have we got to part?
I'm afraid so. It is a particularly painful parting.
It is always painful to part from people whom one has known for a very brief space of time. The absence of old friends, one can endure calmly, but even a momentary separation from anyone to whom one has just been introduced is almost unbearable.
Thank you.
The dog cart is waiting, sir.
It can wait merriment for 5 minutes.
Yes, please.
I hope you will not be offended, Cecily, if I state quite openly and frankly that I think you are to me, without doubt, the absolute personification of absolute perfection.
I think your frankness does you great credit, Ernest. If you'll allow me, I'll copy your remarks into my diary.
Do you really keep a diary? I'd give anything to read it. May I?
Oh no, it is simply a very young dictation. When it appears in volume form, I hope you'll order a copy. But pray honest, don't stop. I delight in taking down from detection. I've reached absolute perfection. You can go on. I'm quite ready for more.
Okay.
Oh, don't cough, Ernest. When one is dictating, one should speak fluently and not a cough. Besides, I don't know how to spell a cough.
Cecily, ever since I gazed upon your magical, incomparable beauty, I have dared to love you wildly, passionately, devotedly, hopelessly.
I don't think you should tell me that you love me widely, passionately, devotedly, hopelessly. Hopelessly doesn't seem to make much sense, does it?
What a perfect angel you are.
The dog cart is waiting, sir.
Tell her to come back next week, Merriman, at the same hour.
Uncle Jack would be very much annoyed if he knew they're staying until next week at the same hour.
Oh, I don't care about Jack. I don't care about anyone in the world. Except you, Cecily. I love you. You will marry me, won't you?
You silly boy. Of course, why? We've been engaged for the last 3 months.
For the last 3 months?
Yes, it will be exactly 3 months on Thursday.
But how did we become engaged?
Well, ever since dear Uncle Jack first confessed to us that he had a younger brother who was very wicked and bad, you, of course, have formed the chief topic of conversation between myself and Miss Prism. And of course, the man who is much talked about is always very attractive. One feels there's something in him. After all, I dare say, it was foolish of me, but I fell in love with you, Ernest.
And when was the engagement actually settled?
On February the 14th, worn out by your entire ignorance of my existence, I determined to end the matter one way or another. And after a long struggle with myself, I accepted you under this dear holy tree here. The next day, I bought this little ring in your name, and this is the little bangle with the true lover's I promise you always to wear.
Did I give you this? It's very pretty, isn't it?
Yes, you've wonderfully good taste, honest. It's the excuse I've always given for your leading such a bad life. And this is the little box in which I kept all your dear letters.
My letters? But I haven't written you any letters.
You need hardly remind me of that, Ernest. I remember only too well that I was forced to write your letters for you. I wrote always 3 times a week, and sometimes more often for you.
Do let me read them, Cecily.
Oh, I couldn't possibly. They would make you far too conceited. The 3 you wrote me after I'd broken off the engagement are so beautiful and so badly spelled that even now I can hardly read them without crying a little.
But was our engagement ever broken off?
Of course it was. On 22nd of last March. You can see the entry if you like. Today, I broke off my engagement with Ernest. I feel it is better to do so. The weather still continues charming.
But why on earth did you break off our engagement? I'm very much hurt by this. What had I done? I had done nothing at all, Cecily.
It would hardly have been really a serious engagement if it hadn't been broken up at least once. But I forgave you before the week was out.
Thank you, Cecily.
You dear romantic boy.
You promised me you won't break off our engagement again.
I don't think I'll break it off now that I've actually met you. Besides, of course, there is the question of your name.
Yes, of course.
Do not laugh at me, darling. It had always been a girlish dream of mine to love someone whose name was Ernest. There is something in that name that seems to inspire absolute confidence. I pity any poor married man whose husband is not called Ernest.
Yes, of course. But you don't mean to say, Cecily, that you could not love me if I had some other name?
But what name?
I don't know. Any name you like. Algernon, for instance.
But I don't like the name of Algernon.
But I can't see why you should object to the name of Algernon. It's not a bad name at all. In fact, it's a rather aristocratic name. Half the chaps in the bankruptcy court are called Algernon. But Cecily, darling, if my name was Algie, couldn't you love me?
I must respect you, Ernest. I might admire your character, but I fear that I should not be able to give you my undivided attention.
Your rector here is, I believe, thoroughly versed in all the rites and ceremonials of the church.
Oh, yes. Dr. Chasuble is a most learned man. He has never written a single book, so you can imagine how much he knows.
Well, I must go and see him at once. On a most important christening. Most important business.
Oh,
I shan't be away for more than half an hour.
considering that we have been engaged since February the 14th, and I only met you for the first time, I think it is rather hard that you should leave me for so long a period as half an hour. Couldn't you make it 20 minutes?
I'll be back in no time.